Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm sorry about the last, well, as my algorithms of YouTube say, 4 months. I have not posted any videos just because I've been so overwhelmed with just like, I moved to a new place. Now I live in a 8-bedroom place and work has been just not the best. So there's been a lot of changes going on in the new year and I think I'm slowly adjusting to them. But yeah. So this week I'm going to talk about my trip to San Diego. It has been just because it was a more recent trip, and I said I was going to talk about my trip to Egypt in my last video, but that one I'm going to have to put into 2 parts and it's a bit more detailed, and I want you guys to know about my review on the travel company that I went with and my experience. So I think I'm going to do that for my next video. And then I also want to get into my bucket list and like how all that started. So that's going to be another separate video that I will eventually post and everything. But yeah, as for this week, I'm going to talk all about my trip with my cousin. And so if you're interested, please stick around. So, before I start, I just want to let you guys know that I think it's obviously very like nerve-wracking being on a camera, but on top of that, because it's publicized, I really want to filter what I say, which is not who I am in person. So I just ask if like if there is something that like offends people or something like that, please like talk to me. And if you just don't like my videos, don't follow me. Simple as that. Just because I want to be like super authentic and I just want to be as real as possible as I would be in person. It's obviously not the same thing, but I'm gonna try my best. And so the opinions that I have will just be based on my experience and doesn't have to be taken upon yourself, because what someone experiences may not be the same as another. So just remember that. And yeah, so besides that, I'm ready to get into my trip about San Diego. So in October 2021, we were in dead season. So every year we have a dead season period where the mountains just closed. And so my cousin and I decided to go away. We were like, we're really pale, we need to tan. So we're like, where can we go that's close and just like, you know, won't lock us out of our borders if like, you know, something were to happen. So we decided to go to San Diego. I've never been to California. Like, my cousin's already been, but I haven't. And I was just like super excited about going and trying something new. And yeah, like I chose San Diego because I wanted more of a chill, like surf beach vibe. And so like this was kind of, you know, the consensus was like, let's go somewhere that's a bit cheaper and close to the beach. Whereas like a city situation, I wasn't as keen about, just because the period of time that we had there was probably just a bit too short for that. And I wasn't really there to do like touristy stuff as much as relaxing. So that's why we chose that. Yeah. And then with COVID, so we booked our flights with WestJet, and then I tried to call like the airline to update on whether we needed like a PCR test or if we didn't need a COVID test or what the situation was, and they were like, just check the website. So I would check the website, and I kid you not, it changed every like 3 weeks. Like literally every day there'd be a different update, and they'd be like, well, so, you know, you may need a PCR test like mid-November. And then it would change again, and it would be like, if you're fully vaccinated, you don't need a PCR test. So it was just so ridiculous. So we just decided to get a PCR test, because that just seemed like the safest option, because we just didn't know like what they were going to take at that point. So we ended up having to go to we went to the airport to get our PCR test, because the only other like testing center they have is like, I think North Van or something. It's basically like kind of out of the way from where we live. And then they do it in Whistler, but the guy charges like $350, $400. So we were just like, no, this is not what we want to do. Like, that's crazy. So, we went all the way to the airport in downtown to get our test. Luckily, my cousin had a car, so we were able to just drive down and get that done. I say just drive down like it was a breeze. It really wasn't. And then we came back to Whistler, and then we flew out at, I think it was like a Monday or Sunday, something like that. And the flight was super fast. We're super close over here, which is such a blessing. It was such a short flight. Now, we thought we were going to have to, like, I thought they were going to ask us for our PCR tests at the borders, but they didn't. They asked them when we got at the gate for our flight, which I found kind of weird. The documentation stuff is honestly such a pain. Like, all the paperwork and this electronic stuff, everything you need on your phone. Like, my phone's dead half the time, so it's honestly really annoying to like, I have to make sure it's actually charged just in case anything happens. So that was kind of a bit stressful. But yeah, that was kind of the situation with that. So when we did land, we landed in LAX. I booked with I don't know why. I think I was like, I didn't realize there was an airport in San Diego. And then, so we landed in LA, and I thought the scenic route, the Highway 99, like with the bridge and the mountains, like apparently that is north, not the route that we're driving south. So the route that I thought we were going to take was not the one, but it's okay. And then so we landed, and I decided to rent a car. Just because, like, the place that we ended up staying at, they had free parking. Like, makes such a difference. Like, people who do drive know that. So, instead of paying, like, hundreds of dollars for parking, that kind of, like, made our decision a bit easier to get a car. And then, so we rented a car. We had to take a shuttle bus to the car rental place. And like, the car rental place is not that far, but in LA traffic, it's like stupid. I've never seen such bad traffic in my life. Like, insane. So we rented a car, got insurance, of course, because they literally were like, you're gonna need it driving these LA roads. And I was like, okay. And then we took off to San Diego, and it was a 3-hour drive. It was super dark when we landed, so we actually didn't get to see anything driving down. But that's okay, because there wasn't much to see at the time. And then the hostel that we ended up staying at is called Samson Hostel. And it's actually a Canadian chain that they have all along the West Coast. So super cool. They have another one like in Kelowna and Vancouver, and then also the one we stayed at in Venice Beach. So we stayed there. The county that we stayed in, Ocean Beach, is actually more of a rundown area, so it wasn't maybe initially what we probably would have ended up going to, but it turned out to be a really good time, so not a bad thing. The county next to us, which was like 15 minutes away, Pacific Beach, is more of a like young party vibe. So that's probably where we would have ended up going if I had done a bit more research, but that wasn't the case. Yeah, and like when we got there, there was definitely a weird vibe in the hostel. Like my my idea of like what California people are and like what I got when I was there was so different. Like there are a lot of weirdos there. Like I was honestly a little bit nervous. Like there are some sketchy people there, so that was kind of like not definitely not a vibe. Um, but we did end up meeting a lot of cool people at the hostel. And they happened to be like people from out of state, which was really awesome. But I definitely did not feel like I could have made a lot of like local friends, to be honest. And I was only there for 2 weeks, but I felt like more comfortable with the people that I had met, out of state. So, and the hostel that we were at, actually, a lot of people were there transitioning and like moving to California, and they were actually looking to rent places. And the housing market, like the rent and everything there is so bad that like they have like a 14-day policy set up, and you can't stay there for any longer, like for consecutive days for like the rest of the year or something, just because like the housing situation there is so bad. So that was crazy. Yeah, so we stayed there, and we also visited this special beach called Mission Beach, and they have this giant boardwalk, and they just literally have everything along the boardwalk. They have bars, and they have an amusement park called Belmont Park, and that's pretty sick. I posted a little video of us like on a roller coaster one day. Like anything and everything that you could think of that you could have like in your life, you can have in California. Like you've got the mountains, you've got the beach, you've got literally everything at your fingertips. It's crazy. So like I can understand why people would like love to be there, but also yeah, it's like two different vibes, I guess. And definitely like when we went to Venice Beach, I did feel a bit of that kind of like famous hustle to be something big vibe. And Venice Beach was really interesting because there was just a lot of like cool art, and even the architecture of the buildings, like the houses were just very like intricate and unique, and like each one of them had their own character to it. But the people again were just like not something that I totally would have like pictured the way they are. But yeah, they also like never sleep in Venice Beach. Like it's just insane. Like they say New York is the city that never sleeps. I feel like it's LA. Like it was like 9 or 10 a.m. and me and Anthony like checked out of our hotel. And we were like just chilling on the beach, and like everyone's up at like 9 in the morning, like at the skate park, and like, going for runs and this and that. And I'm like, it's a Saturday morning. So that was really interesting. The other thing is that the nightlife there is very exclusive to who you know. It's very like guest list kind of thing. It's very like, yeah, it's very cliquey. So that was definitely kind of a turn off for what I was hoping my experience would be. I mean, we were really only there for a day, so I can't compare it to anything. But yeah, that was the culture, the nightlife vibe that I got from there, from the one night that we were there. The other thing is that there was no masks in San Diego when we were there. Masks were optional. They're like, if you are not vaccinated, please wear a mask. But they're like, if you are, like, it's your option if you want to. They didn't force anyone in any of their establishments to wear one, which I really liked, being able to have the option to wear one or not to wear one. And the people that, didn't feel comfortable, they wore one. And the people that were fine with it didn't. And like, so, it was kind of nice to have a bit of a breather. Whereas like here in Canada, like we're still wearing masks everywhere. It's crazy. And in LA, it's like the complete opposite. It's extremely strict. Like everywhere you have to wear a mask. And yeah, it was just like complete opposite from San Diego. So when we went from San Diego to LA, it was a bit of a switch to go from no mask to mask. So that was very interesting. Um, yeah. What else do I have to tell you guys? I did some surf lessons in San Diego in Pacific Beach, and um, their winter there is like it was weird. So the weather we had for really nice days of like 25, 30, and that was it. It was actually pretty cold the rest of the time that we were there, and we just weren't prepared. Like I didn't have like any sweaters or anything. And so we were kind of like, oh, what the hell? So it was kind of a surprise in terms of that. But I mean, it kind of makes sense. It's along the coast. There's mountain ranges. Makes sense. I don't know why we wouldn't think to pack any of that, but we didn't. We're kind of like snow to beach. Why not? Um, so yeah, that was interesting. And then um, the waves too, they were saying that like for surfers, it's the best time is the winter, just to surf. I expected their waves to be a lot bigger. That was something where I was like, interesting, okay. They were still decent size, but I just thought there'd be much bigger than what they were. And maybe there were like different areas that you could go to. But yeah, like, they were pretty decent size, but nothing like too crazy. Yeah. And then like the skate scene in San Diego is so cool. Right next to Belmont Park, they have a outdoor skate park, which is really cool, open to the public. Um, and yeah, that was a really sick scene to check out. They also have like an indoor pool with like obstacle courses and stuff inside, which was really cool. Um, yeah, they just like had this was everything was on Mission Beach, by the way. This was all on Mission Beach. Um, yeah. And then we went to the famous Santa Monica Pier. That was pretty cool, like to see like a Ferris wheel and like, a whole carnival basically, on top of a pier, and a restaurant and everything was really cool. The food, which I wanted to talk about as well. The food in California was very interesting because they've got a lot of Mexican influence because they're right along the border with Mexico. But it was very kind of like generic burritos and things like that. Nothing too crazy. The fish there surprised me the most. I was expecting it to be more of like a West Coast kind of like good quality fish, compared to what I've had in Vancouver. And it definitely did not meet the standards of that. So food was not definitely not one of the highlights of this trip, but that's okay. It's still an experience. Yeah, so, and also nightlife scene clubs were open the entire time. So, we got to party and go out, and that was awesome. Not something that we've been able to do in so long. Um, yeah, so that was super fun. And we were there during their dead season, like their dead period, apparently. So, I mean, like, I don't know what the experience would have been like if it was a more crazy, active, busy season. I'm kind of happy that we went during the dead period. I wish we would have had warmer days, but that's okay. Um, yeah. And then coming back was kind of a nightmare. Like, we were kind of ready to go and we're like, we got to get back. We the Canadian dollar and US dollar, we spent so much money. Like, I definitely did not budget. Like, I spent over my budget and I was just like, oh man, this is bad. But coming on our way back, we got our PCR test, took it, whatever, and then my cousin didn't give the right phone number. And so he did not, and he didn't give an email, so he didn't get his test results. And the testing center was closed on the weekends, and we flew out on a Sunday, and we got it on like a Friday or something. And so we were like scrambling, trying to figure out how we were gonna get his test. And luckily, someone like on through Facebook Messenger like contacted him and gave him his results. But I was just thinking like how stressful that is. Like, if you don't have like one tiny detail, or if your documents are like stuck on something and then your phone dies, like that's just crazy. Like, it was ridiculous flying out because of all the documentation that we needed on hand. Going back into Canada, you need this document called ArriveCAN on top of everything else. So Trudeau makes you do an extra step, more so than you already have to. So that was kind of ridiculous, but whatever. And it was also Thanksgiving weekend, so the airport, I kid you not, was not anything I've ever seen in my life. Like, it was just a disaster and so disorganized. It was crazy. But yeah, but overall, like, the experience was awesome. It was amazing. We had such a good time, such a good experience. Like, there's probably a bunch of other things that few other things I really wanted to mention that I didn't mention. Oh, the LA traffic. I thought we were gonna get into an accident like a few times. Definitely, like, just, it's crazy. Like, every other car, I swear, there was a dent in their car. Every other car, I swear. Yeah, and La Jolla, we also went to, which is like half an hour, I think, north of San Diego, and it's just like a really ritzy area. And there we saw like the seals and stuff like that. And some of you may have seen that on my story, and it was just such a cute experience. La Jolla is beautiful, but again, I would never like live there. But yeah, it was another cool area for us to experience. We also went to the Harry Potter world, which was amazing, to say the least. Like, I could go on and on about how much I love that place. But we did not end up doing like any touristy things in LA because we found out that a lot of the touristy spots and attractions are actually in opposite directions within the city. So we kind of just decided that we didn't really want to, run around and do all that stuff, especially in LA traffic and in the heat. It just wouldn't be worth our time. But yeah, so overall, I would say California is amazing. I don't think I would ever move there per se, but it's definitely a fun, chaotic place with lots of things to do. I definitely recommend it if you haven't gone. And yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe. Stick around for next week. I'm going to be talking about my trip to Egypt with On The Go Tours. Going to be super interesting. And I'll post some pictures and videos from that trip in my next video. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So hope everybody has a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.